a lot of us are not aligned properly, to
Right.
be honest, right? A lot of us, the body works in such an amazing way that God created us with this fight or flight, right? God created us with the ability to know when something is of danger. And when we know if something is a danger, when we have that, they call it situational fear versus, in CBT, we call it situational fear versus psychological fear. And
Mm.
situational fear is all about, you know, understanding and discerning the situation when something is really, really, threatening, life threatening. Your brain sends certain signals, cortisol levels increase, hormones increase, and you begin to get that adrenaline heart pumping, and you get it for the right reason so that you can fight, you can run, you can fight, you can do whatever you need to do to survive. That situational fear is needed. That situational fear is good to have. It triggers me in the prophetic aspect, and I'm going to go too deep, but in the prophetic aspect
Oh,
where God will cause. I see Prophetess Cindy said discernment is so important. It helps us. It makes me think of how God allows us to discern, when there's something that's off, or when there's something that's in danger, when we sense something, we get into that situational fear, and it helps us to know, okay, I need to pray, or I need to fight, or I need to do this. Versus a psychological fear where there's no impeding danger. There's no
mm,
impending danger. It's just your mind remembering how that fear felt, and you become almost irrational with it. So
wow.
it's like, driving in a car and almost having a car accident and being paralyzed now by that fear, so that you don't want to drive the car anymore because you just think in your mind, I'm going to have a car accident. And so that now prohibits you, and because it begins to cause you to become stuck. So it's really the voices come in our minds to reframe our thinking, and we have to get realigned, to the original way that we're supposed to be operating, as children of God.
Absolutely. I think that's a great point. Because I think a lot of us we battle with the psychological fear aspect.
Hmm.
Um, because a lot of the problems that we have, or a lot of the traumas that we have, get triggered, and so we may not necessarily be in real danger, but the brain perceives it as danger. And I think, especially as Christian leaders, we have a responsibility to be more active in combating those psychological fears, and really pulling those, recognizing them, discerning them, but also pulling them down. Because I think we have this kind of idea, this kind of mindset that because of what we've been through,
Yeah.
that we kind of don't deserve to progress, or we don't deserve to be who God has called us to be. I think that's something huge that we deal with as Christians and as Christian leaders, and that we don't want to we don't want to reach a certain level because we feel that we don't deserve it, because we're bound by the psychological fear. I don't know if I'm making sense,
Yeah.
but we're bound by the psychological fear, and so whenever we start to feel like maybe we're progressive, we fall back into that fear of, well, I've been rejected
Right.
when I was younger, when I was 8 years old, and someone told me that I was dumb. So for
Hmm.
me to stand in front of people and give a
I can't
sermon,
do it. Hmm.
right? It makes you think of Moses, right? Moses battled with the stuttering, and there was no real fear, there was no real danger with
Right.
him going before Pharaoh, but he acknowledged that it is because he stutters.
Hmm.
And knowing relationships with knowing people, you're not conscious of stuttering until someone makes fun of you,
Right.
right? You're not conscious of what your what your
It's
what
so true.
your
It's pretty
what
cruel.
your issues are, what your challenges are, until someone makes fun of you,
Hmm.
and someone teases you, and brings it to light. And a lot of times we are recognized by our issue.
Right.
Oh, that person with the big toe, or that person with the broken arm, or that person that's partially blind. We are trained to be recognized by our flaws and our
Yeah.
struggles, that it constantly keeps that psychological fear operating in our lives, so that we're not able to really progress and be fully who God has called us to be.
Right. And it creates, um, in CBT, there's a term called cognitive distortion. So it basically creates this distortion, again, cognitive being learning and understanding, right? How you think. You begin to develop a faulty way of thinking because you were teased or because you were ridiculed or because you had this thought like, I'm fat, or I'm dumb, or I stutter, or you start to think what other people are thinking about when they think about you. So it's kind of like,
Right.
maybe you're okay with yourself, but how do other people perceive me? And that then becomes an issue. And so cognitive distortions, it is what it sounds like. It's a distortion. It's a faulty way of thinking, and it's a part of the whole voices in your head. And in CBT, like in my study when I was doing certification, it was the funniest thing because the lady was just like, you hear a voice in your head that tells you you can't do it, but you're like, I think I can, but the voice tells you you can't do it. And then she was like, I like to identify the voice. I call mine Bob. Just like,
Bob.
Bob. Like, that is just the most craziest thing. I'm like, oh, their enemy, but sometimes we like to blame the enemy, but a lot of times it's the enemy, the enemy, the enemy. It's just how we think. It's how our brain patterns are wired. It's how we're connected on the inside. And we have to really begin to think about what we're thinking about, have been thinking about, challenge our way of thinking, improve ourselves by having and developing a growth mindset. So if the cognitive distortion comes, and I just want to give a few examples. There is that kind of overgeneralizing, where you kind of take things out of context completely, it could be out of what, someone has said, jump into conclusion, where you just make assumptions, out of nothing, or an all or nothing way of thinking, which is like black and white. It's either this or it's that. You ever meet that person? I'm not going to bring up any kind of major issues like the vaccine. I'm not going to go into that. But you'll have some people that have an all or nothing mindset. It's just, there's just no great areas. It's wrong. It's wrong. I don't know why it's wrong. It's just wrong. Versus someone who would want to learn why it's wrong, or begin to challenge, or begin to think about what they're thinking about. Another cognitive distortion that is really popular is, kind of like, when you put things on yourself, like when you start to think, it's me, and you start to personalize things. So you're in a situation, and you're thinking, right? And in the situation, you start to personalize it. Someone could be, you could be having a disagreement with someone, and it could be about them, but you're personalizing it. That's a distortion. Blaming is a distortion. So there's so many different things that we think is a normal way of thinking, and it's actually a faulty way of thinking. Because why is it faulty? Because the evidence to make it true is in question. So it's all about having the proper evidence to begin to challenge a thought process. And as we grow up, we can begin to do one or two things. We either have a fixed mindset, whereas these are my this is who I am. The saying that says you can't teach an old dog new tricks, because the dog is like, I'm old, this is just who I am. You know what I mean? So you have that, this is who I am, this is my personality, this is just the way I talk, this is just the way I walk, this is just me. Take me or leave me, you don't like me, da da da. You have that. And that fixed mindset also believe I'm only good at this one thing. I can't grow my skills. I can develop. I can't do, I can't do that. That's for them. I can't do that. I don't know how to do that. It limits you, and it makes you stuck. And I'm always teaching my clients, you have to choose to have a growth mindset, to realize, listen, I can grow my skills. I can develop. It's basically a mind assessment to think through, where your mind is. Do you have a fixed mindset, or do you have a growth mindset? Because in order to change self-limiting beliefs, you have to be able to identify that.